But all right, so it's 2:01, so let's get started. So thank you all again for joining today's MQ&A session. It is going to be about how we're transitioning from a historically manual process to an automated process with MileageQuest, and really how that use can boost efficiency through your organization in a multitude of different facets. So please, next slide. So yes, the actual title will be How to Elevate Your Business Efficiency with MileageQuest. We're going to be discussing the automation of your mileage management, streamlining those approvals and accelerating those reimbursements for your staff and for yourself, as well as guaranteeing those IRS-compliant reports can be generated. And we have our lovely co-founder, Shawn Washington, who is a CPA and also a former IRS auditor. So if you'd like to start by introducing yourself, Shawn. Oh, I think you're muted there.
There you go. I was muted. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to talk about MileageQuest and kind of give you the historical perspective and how we're addressing pain points for, small businesses and for individuals. And I need to tell you that October 15th was the second extension deadline. And so I am so ready to talk about manual logs and how awful they are. They take a lot of time for tax preparers and for internal accountants. And what really gave rise to this app was our CPA firm. We had so many clients that were in outside sales, that were independent contractors, and they would just say, use last year's mileage. So we call them Sally clients, same as last year. Well, I don't want to have to use the legal services of Aaron to get us all out of jail. So we got to follow the IRS requirements to track mileage. So there you go, Bridget.
Perfect. Well, let's jump right on in. Rochelle, next slide, please. But Shawn, can you just describe what MileageQuest is?
Well, MileageQuest is a mobile application that if you have an iOS or an Android, you can download from their respective app stores. And what this app does is it syncs to your calendar. It interfaces with every calendar system out there, Outlook, Google Calendars, etc. And then it also triangulates with the GPS system on your phone. So if you have Waze, Google Maps, or any other GPS system, our app syncs with that as well. And so when you start moving to go on your business trip or your client meeting, it tracks the trip in the background. And upon your arrival, it saves it. And the beauty is that if you maintain your calendar and follow our best practices for calendar management, which also correlates with the IRS requirements. The IRS, if they're going to audit you, or if your employer, your supervisor is going to review your mileage reimbursement, they're going to want to see, okay, which client was it? What was the date? What was the from location? What was the to location? And a description of the meeting. So the employer would want the same thing that the IRS would require. And so that's what the app does. And it stores those trips. So 6 months from now, or a year from now, when it's time to do your taxes, you don't have to go and try to figure out where you went for the entire year. It's at your fingertips.
Absolutely. Very, very useful. So can you provide a little bit more clarity on or give an overview of the mileage tracking, needs and requirements when it comes to, businesses and individuals? And next slide, please, Rochelle.
Sure. One of the big things is, and we have clients that are guilty of this, and as auditors, we audit 60% of the time we spend in the accounting firm is auditing healthcare companies, nonprofits, charter schools, just a variety of different companies. And oftentimes the employers will just say, hey, what was your mileage? And just write a check for $200 or $600. And there's no backup documentation to support that. Well, from an IRS perspective, they would look at that as a form of compensation. And now they would pull that money into wages. So you need to have proper documentation to support mileage reimbursement. And all the elements, the 5 elements that I talked about, the client name, what was the purpose of the meeting, as the description and date, time to and from, all that is super important to document. And that information is saved in your internal accounting records to support what you pay the employee. Now, if you have your own business and you're self-employed, the same thing, you need a log that shows, how you spent your time throughout the year. And one of the big things with being self-employed is mileage tracking is super important because you may be able to claim actual expenses versus the business mileage times 67 cents a mile for 24 anyway. It's going to go up next year, I'm sure, the reimbursable rate. But the mileage tracking within the app, it basically tells you, well, how much was business of your total mileage of the year? How much was business? 80%, 50%, et cetera. How much was commuting? How much was, medical? How much was charitable? And these things are very important. Once you determine your business percentage, if your lease cost of your car and the gas and all the other repair and maintenance, insurance, DMV fees, if 80% of that is greater than 67 cents a mile for the business mileage, you're able to justify to the IRS why you're claiming an 80% business use on your vehicle.
Understood. So clearly there's a lot for individuals and businesses to think about, seemingly a very tedious process. What are some of these other efficiencies that can impact these individuals when they're doing, manual methods of mileage management? Next slide, please, Rochelle.
Yeah. The big thing about, there's a lot of, you'd be surprised, there's some very large companies. There's a bank that I can't mention that, we interview people all the time to find out, well, what are you doing internally to track your mileage? And some of these, a very large bank says, oh, we just use Excel. And everybody's using a different Excel format. It's not uniform. But the biggest problem is obviously formula errors, maybe inputting the same trip multiple times. There was a big case in San Bernardino several years ago where a bunch of employees were resubmitting the same mileage reimbursement reports, and nobody was really checking those. And they were just resubmitting, and it was purposeful. It was fraudulent. Several people got fired, and all the other things that go with doing illegal things. So the quality of what's submitted and the correctness of it is always at risk when you're using Excel or even a manual system. And the biggest problem is, as a supervisors, it's a pain point. I'm an accountant. I don't want to review mileage reports. If somebody gives me a manual mileage report that says they went different places and they put 38 miles, not even the exact 37.68 miles, right? They just put 38 miles, and usually it's very limited. And so you're going to lose money because you're going to be overpaying mileage, and you may be paying duplicate mileage, and you just don't have the proper backup documentation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so how do those inefficiencies sort of impact the overall workflow and processes for reimbursements or even deductions?
Right.
Next slide, please, Rochelle.
Some of the things that I'm hearing, this is great. Here's a typical process flow of a company that we sat down with and said, okay, look, what's your system? So one of the biggest things is the cost of doing this. So you have to stop what you're doing and focus on mileage reimbursement and the correctness of it, and analyze, well, who they go see, and you have to run the employee down to get clarity. You have to have them, updated and edited. It's very time consuming. So internet research shows that it costs $3,800 per employee to prepare a mileage reimbursement. And so let's just kind of walk through this. This is interesting. So the company told us after every trip, the person would add it to like a mileage log, something manual or Excel for the most part. And then they would, add the date, distance, time, description. So your employee is doing this instead of doing what you actually hired them to do, right? Whereas with the calendar synchronization, this is already in the calendar, and it comes over, it syncs up to the mobile app. And so you don't have to do this redundant step here. And then they finalize the report, then they submit it to a supervisor, normally a manual process, or they email it. And then the supervisor has to look at it, make sure everything is correct. If they have questions, like I said, they've got to run the staff member down. If it's denied, and here's some of the common denial reasons: you can't read someone's handwriting, right? Improper documentation. They didn't attach the GPS reports from Google. Think about it. For all the trips that they want reimbursement for, they've got to give you proper backup. They've got to go to Google Maps or Waze and put it in, and then print that document or save it as a PDF and just pile all this paperwork up. Now, as a supervisor, manager, or business owner, the last thing you want to do on your weekend or in your evening is go through a bunch of mileage reports and test them for accuracy, right? And so there's so many variables and risk associated with doing this manually versus having a synced up system that tracks it for you. And then the other thing is, if it's approved, then it goes to payroll, right? And generally payroll, if it's not a electronic interface, so the payroll department has to stack all these up, date stamp them, and wait for the next payroll. It may not get in with the current payroll, and that's a whole nother step in the payroll system. And then they get reimbursed a week or 2 or 3 later. So this is not the ideal situation for any company, no matter what the size is.
Absolutely. Not ideal at all. Time
No.
is money and time is precious. So
Right.
how does MileageQuest automate this and allow the process to be minimized?
Well, the next slide, as you can see, shows you that with our MileageQuest app on the far left side of your screen, you basically scan, you can generate the report on your phone, and you can scroll through and make sure everything looks good, nice and clean, that you didn't put something personal in there maybe. You can go back and remove that classification from business to personal, make sure the report is good, and guess what? When it's good, you can submit it to your supervisor for approval in an Excel format or a PDF format right from your phone. And then that gives your supervisor the opportunity to be able to, the process, the experience is going to be redeeming for the supervisor because they can read what you did. They can see the client name, a description of the meeting. If they have any questions, they can get back to you. But if everything looks good, they can forward that information on over to payroll. And APIs can be customized depending on which payroll service you're using, ADP, Paychex, Heartland. They all have APIs that would interface with MileageQuest, and it would be electronically uploaded into your payroll system and into your accounting system. And so if there's denial review, the review process is cut more than in half. It's cut 2/3, maybe more than that. Denials or adjustments are handled easier and quicker. You don't have to go into Excel and modify. You just go in and change the coding of that trip. If the employer says, I'm not going to pay you for that trip, or why did that trip, why did you go 90 miles? Normally you go 30 miles. The person can go back in and change the from location to the proper location. So very efficient in that way. And then it gets approved, processed, out the door.
Easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know a lot of the features that are within MileageQuest are to automate this, streamline it, and of course, guarantee that compliance. So here's a list of features that, MileageQuest has. Shawn, do you want to share maybe your favorites from here or the most important?
Sure. As co-founder with Tamara, our CEO, who's also on the call, a lot of these things were talked about over dinner for the most part as we were developing the wireframes to do this. And vacation mode was one of the last things that we added because we were thinking, like, what if you're on vacation? You don't want anybody, you don't want your mileage tracked. So you can set the phone in your notifications to vacation mode. And while you're in the air and moving in other ways on boats, sailing, whatever you're doing, it won't track your mileage. So that's my favorite one, vacation mode. Then also the one-tap report sharing, like I talked about earlier, getting that over to your supervisor for approval. If you misplace it, you can always go back into your emails and re-forward it, right? And then, of course, the automatic mileage tracking. You can set, if you have a place that you go to for business on a regular basis and it's fixed, you can set that in the phone. The description is the same all the time, and it'll just store that for you and just build up that history that you need to support your deduction. And then also, the last thing that we did was the number 8, the privacy control. So basically, if you have a flexible work schedule, there's a work period feature where you select the days you work, and the days that you don't select, it doesn't track your movement. So we wanted to make sure that the app wasn't intrusive to a business person's calendar and day, with constant notifications and interruptions. And we also don't have any advertisement on the phone. Our whole purpose is for this to be designed for the subscriber. And so we want our revenue subscriber base. We don't want it to come from marketing and advertisement. We don't want you getting Taco Bell and Grease Monkey. Even though I like those companies, you don't need to see that when you're trying to handle your business day-to-day operation. But there you go.
Absolutely. And I will just say that I love the customizable trip classification. So we do more than just document your business mileage, which, a lot of people tend to focus on. But think about being able to document charitable, medical, just going to the doctor's office, to the dentist's office. I mean, who knew that those expenses can be deductible as well? So love that that was incorporated into the app as well. And next slide, please, Rochelle. But now to the best feature, the result of all of that automated documentation, which is the IRS compliant reports. So can you just give a brief on what the reports
Sure.
are and really what the value is to the subscriber?
Okay. On this journey in developing the app, the whole idea was to get to the report, right? So we designed the reports and we went backwards into app functionality. And so really, this is the end all of what we want. And so what reports would be important to a user? So obviously your mileage reimbursement report to your employer or to your client, right? You may want to support to your client, your mileage and back and forth from their office. So the mileage reimbursement report is like the first one that is most relevant to most people. But then there's the annual tax report, which is relevant to your accountant and even yourself to understand how you're using your vehicle. But your accountant, this is going to make their lives, their tax preparer, quite easy. It will not hold up the processing of your return because you're trying to figure out mileage, get odometer readings at the first of the year, all those things that we would ask for to be able to verify your total mileage for the year, and then compare that to your business mileage to get that percentage, right? And so that's also a report. And then we have two different vehicle information reports.
Rochelle,
Oftentimes,
sorry to interrupt, Shawn. Please thank you. The next slide, actually.
okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Let's go back 2 slides. I'm sorry. Let's go back. Okay, so this is the mileage reimbursement report, just so you can see it up close. The other screen is kind of small. Now, as an employer or supervisor, wouldn't this make sense to you? So you've got the period of time the employee is asking for reimbursement. You've got dates and times. You got the title of the meeting, what it was about, to and from. And so your auditing of your review of your employee's reimbursement is going to be streamlined. It'll be very quick. And so if the employee has multiple trips, obviously there will be more breakpoints on this report, and it could be several pages, who knows how much driving they're doing. But that's what the reimbursement report looks like. And it shows how much you're going to get reimbursed. Now, this is the report that was designed that will meet the needs of your tax preparer. And so there's a couple questions that are asked, and then that's actually in the setup screen when you set up Mileage Quest on your phone. And then it gives you your total mileage for the year, because it looks at your odometer from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and then breaks down based on how you coded up your trips. Now, let me just address something really quick. The odometer reading, we're hoping, and we've been reaching out to CarPlay to come up with a way to have our app sync to CarPlay and sync to certain model vehicles to get the odometer reading automatically based on the data in the app. Right now, you get prompted to put in the odometer reading at the end of the year. So what the app does is it looks at the end of 23 and the end of 24 and says, oh, the difference is 80,000 miles, and that's your total mileage for the year. And it sets and it locks, so it can't be changed. And so that's the beauty of that. So that keeps everybody honest on total mileage. People don't have to guess anymore. Okay, next slide. And then this vehicle usage report, this is a snapshot. So if you're at an auto dealership and they're trying to get you to lease a vehicle, you can pull this report up and show the salesman, say, look, I use my car primarily for commuting. It doesn't make sense to lease, and look how many miles I put on the car. So I'm going to buy. So it's helpful for that purpose. And then also throughout the year, as you're using the app, you can monitor your vehicle usage and go, okay, this is how I'm using my car. And you can put up to 99 cars in this app. So if you had 3 cars, let's go to the next slide. You would run this report and it would show each car side by side. And you can say, you know what? My accountant says I need to make sure I stay over 50% on each car so that I don't have to go back and have any tax law changes to my automobile. And so you can maybe switch up cars and utilize one car more than the other for the last quarter of the year. So we think we've addressed the needs of such employers and taxpayers with this app.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's such credibility and trust when someone, as a CPA and as a former IRS auditor who was in the thick of it, can provide his insights and experience to have, an exceptional product. But with that, that is close to the end of our presentation. Next slide, please, Rochelle. I just wanted to, oh, actually, sorry about that. I went ahead of myself. We would actually like to show you a quick demonstration of how easy it is to generate a report in MileageQuest. Rochelle, I believe, yeah, you might need to be unmuted for the audio.
Let me play it back.
Well, even if there's no audio, you guys can hear my lovely voice now and just see on the screen how quick it was. I mean, that was 20 seconds, if that. Rochelle, did it pause?
Yeah.
Well, she's
Yeah, it finished playing through, but it's playing again. I'm not sure why the audio isn't coming through though.
no problem. Here, let's do this. It's pretty simple. At the very top of our screen, you have events, which is your calendar, which is where the calendar syncing comes in. And then you have trips that shows the trips you've taken for the month. And then on the far right, you have reports. And so you just click on report, and then the 4 report types that I just walked you through, they pop up, and you select the one you want. And all you have to do is select the date range. You can do all trips, or you can just do business trips. And then the report shows up on your screen for you to review, and then you would send to your supervisor, as you see there. And inside the setup, you put your supervisor's information, so it's in the background. So that's how that part works. And I do want to share with you, working for the IRS, when auditing tax returns, mileage was an area of a lot of abuse. People just did not have records, okay? Proper records with the proper documentation. And so essentially, as an auditor, if they don't have backup documentation to support what they claimed, you have to disallow the deduction. And so that resulted in, significant penalties, et cetera. Because some people just go ridiculous with miles that they want to claim, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. It's ridiculous with no backup. It's possible to have that kind of mileage, but you gotta have the documentation. So if you leave here with anything, just understand that the documentation is important for the employer, as if they get audited, the IRS reviews payments or workers' comp. Let's say workers' comp looks, and they see all these payments to employees with no backup that says mileage reimbursement. Guess what? That just became wages. So be careful.
What are the consequences of not being compliant or not having that documentation and trying to, slide under the radar?
Well, they can go back a couple years. If they see that you claim mileage in prior years, they can open up those years as far back as the statute of limitations allows, which is 3 years from date of filing. And so it could result in additional tax and penalties. Yeah. All right.
Not good, not good. All right, so before we open it up to questions, I just want to close out with an update. Next slide, please. So Android is here, yay! Round of applause. So
Yay.
November 1st is going to be the official launch date. I'm sure some of you have been seeing some promo material, or you're even on the demo version right now. So please keep up with our updates on our social media channels, as well as our email list, to be notified and pinged when the Android is officially on the Google Play Store. I know there's a few businesses that have Android clients or staff that are really eager to get on the app. So we're super, super excited to get those onboardings booked. In the email that you all will be receiving with these resources, there will be some additional links for you to either have a discovery call or have an onboarding for your team, specific to Android. And then for those that are currently on the app, just make sure that you have your push notifications turned turned on so that you get made aware when we do push out an update. And if you do have any current questions, then definitely reach out to the tech support team via the feedback tab within the app, or you can message us, through our contact us page on the website. And of course, we're always available, through our email channels. So please reach out if there are any questions, comments, or concerns. But with that, thank you so much for, hearing us out during this presentation. Thank you so much to Shawn, for extending his insights to us. And now we will open it up for questions or comments. I know, Angela, I saw you raise your hand briefly. Do you still have a question?
Let me make sure everybody is able to talk.
Okay, we have a few. So we'll go with Nick first. We saw his hand raised. Hi, Nick, how are you? Are you able to turn your mic off or on?
You should be good.
Oh, yes, I can turn it off. Hi, how's it going?
Hi.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Bridget, for hosting. So I was actually introduced to this product by Kevin, who I met at the business expo, the business show. Yeah. So I think it's a really useful tool for freelancers and like gig workers to submit their mileage for write-offs. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the customizability for multiple streams of income. Say maybe I'm a gig worker and I also have a small business on the side, and I wanted to sort those two mileages and submit them separately. Could you just clarify a little bit more about how that would work?
Yes, inside the app, in your setup screen, you can have multiple activities up to 99. You can have 99 activities and 99 cars. So you would basically, when you go into the calendar, you would identify the activity that it relates to. Okay, so it could be your day, your normal job, employment, or it could be your hobby or business that you do on the side. And yeah, it sorts it that way.
You could also
Amazing.
add
That's
a
so
custom, oops, sorry.
I was just saying it's very easy and straightforward. That works great.
Yeah, it's super useful. And then there's also something you can do by setting a custom tag. So if there is, a host of trips that you're taking and you want to segment them based on either where you're going or, if they're a client visit, then you can actually generate the reports based on that custom tag. So you can separate it between, your clients or the different businesses that you take, more so than just classifying it based on personal, commute, business, et cetera. So there's a few different customizable functions in the app to allow you to do that.
Excellent. It sounds like you can get really granular with your reporting. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Bridget?
Yes.
Hi, it's Mike. I had a question with respect, is the App Store ready for it now? So can I download it on the App Store just to get start to work with it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh,
It is on the
cool.
App Store right now. And if you do look, Mileage Quest app on the Google Play Store, you'll see it. It'll just have the toggle that it's pre-registered or the demo version. So it is currently available on both. We just haven't had that hard launch for Android yet. But yes, has been on Apple.
Okay, yeah, I have an iPhone and everybody,
Okay.
so I'll just use it on through the iPhone. But well, fantastic. It does have different because I'm involved in farming, and so I'm
Mhm.
often traveling all over the place for
Yes.
moving cattle or sheep or something.
Yes.
And then also I have just a kind of a day job, so I can have those split up activities wise, right?
Yes, absolutely. You definitely can.
Well, thanks so much. This looks great.
Yeah,
Thanks
of
again.
course. And then in that second email, we'll actually provide you with like a code, so you can get on Mileage Quest and some links so that you can set up an onboarding if you prefer to have a team member guide you through that setup process. Super
Well,
easy, but in
yeah.
case you guys want to,
Okay, well,
talk
let
to
me
us.
struggle through it for a bit and then see, but I can go ahead to the App Store now and go ahead and purchase it.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. All right, thanks.
Mike, I just wanted to ask you, do you enjoy law more or talking to animals? Help me out here.
Sorry now?
Do you enjoy law or talking to animals more?
Oh, animals way more. The law just allows me to do the farming, not the other way around. Mhm.
Got it.
I think if I could touch and be with sheep all day too, I would choose that. Okay. I think we had Nareg. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Please correct me if I'm wrong. Rochelle's saying he's unable to unmute. Can we check that for him?
He should be able, his mic's enabled. He just has to click the unmute.
Are you seeing that option? Only select participants. Huh. Okay, try now. And then if not, you can just type your question in the chat, but you should be able to right now. Or you can try and rejoin. Whichever is easiest. Oh, okay. Looks like they're going to try and rejoin. Awesome. And then I'm not sure if Tamara, our lovely CEO, would like to provide any comments.
Well, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I thought Shawn covered quite a bit of the new and exciting events as it relates to Mileage Quest. So I trust that you're going to walk away with a ton of valuable information regarding what we are offering and how it can improve your lives. So definitely keep in mind that every other Thursday we do have this MQ&A. So if any of your colleagues, anyone in your sphere of influence was invited and couldn't make it today, let them know that we'll be back in 2 weeks. But thanks so much for joining us today.
Awesome. And then Nireg, I think you said your mic is now working.
Yep. Hey, everybody. My name is Nadeg, based out of Los Angeles, WebWeave, a software development firm. I just had a few questions. One is the calendar a two-way integration? And the reason I asked that is it only possible to start tracking your miles if you have a calendar invite on your Google Calendar, or you're able to start that manually, and will it sync back to your Google Calendar?
You want me to handle that one, Rochelle? Or do you want to handle it, Bridget?
You can take it if you'd like.
Okay, right. So any movement that you have, even if it's not on your calendar, it will cue you and ask you, do you want to record this trip? You can say ignore or save. And then you can edit it if it's not in your calendar. The beauty of being calendar driven is it's less work and everything is already pre-populated into the fields, because the calendar integration, all of the fields are mapped into Mileage Quest for you, so you don't have to edit anything except the trip, business, personal, that type of thing. So yeah, it's just, yeah.
That's awesome. Also, does this support SSO for any enterprise clients, for larger clients who might use like Okta or other SSO systems?
The answer is yes. Concur, okay, is the largest one that we would interface with, in ADP.
Got it. Understood. And I know you mentioned that you have APIs that help connect with other, invoicing software, or like things like QuickBooks as an example, but do you have integrations with tools like Expensify that some corporations use to submit, their mileage and all that to get employees paid?
Yeah, that's a great question. We wanted to keep our app simple and focused on mileage. The concept of like other expenses like, hotel stays and meals and whatnot, that's down the road for us. We want to keep it simple. So we're not doing that integration. Now, we can do an API integration for the mileage piece of it, and then the employee would upload, their other expense reimbursement. But that's something that our development team is working on for the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, this is fun. Like Mike, I like the Mileage Quest stuff instead of doing the tax return. But anyway, yeah.
Agreed. And then Nick, you still have your hand up. Not sure if that was from earlier, if you have another question.
No, I just haven't got it down yet. Thank you.
No worries. All righty. Any last questions or comments?
Thank you.
Oh, Bridget, with Nick posing the question regarding how one would be able to retrieve their data from earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. Did you want to expound on that and let everyone know that they can go as far back as their calendar exists?
Yeah, so absolutely. So a great point on, some additional functionality. of Mileage Quest. So if you come or, you download the app today, but you have, years of trips or events in your calendar that you never claimed mileage on or didn't submit those reports correctly or, to the level of accuracy that you want, the app will pull all of that information and you can generate a report today from years ago, 2015, 2019, 2022. So having that expansive ability is super important because, as we know, that manual process is so tedious. And a lot of the time, individuals just don't want to go through with it. They're don't want to be, non-compliant. So they just, they're like, let me cut my losses. I won't submit anything. But with that ability, and functionality with Mileage Quest, it really just opens the door for you to, gain additional tax advantages or reimbursements for that matter. So awesome. I hope that's something that, is of value to, the attendees and future subscribers of Mileage Quest.
Oh, for sure. I mean, normally when I do a tax return, like I finish my own tax return, like some degree I know I'm supposed to, have written information. And so typically I don't have it. So I'm either guessing or just bagging the mileage, which is, and I drive all over the Central Valley, chasing around. So no, this is very good. I really appreciate it. Thanks again, guys. Thanks, Shawn.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. Also, Bridget, can you make sure everybody follows us on LinkedIn? Yep.
Yes, everyone, please follow us on LinkedIn. Can we go to the next? Yes. So just Mileage Quest on all of our different social media platforms. We would really appreciate it. There's so much good content. The team and I spend a lot of time, making sure that we have informative content for you guys all to see. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's funny, and then you'll see the team's faces a lot, which I hope is a joy. So please, yes, follow us. I think you'll definitely get some good insights from that. And then just know that you will be getting sent a recording of this presentation as well as the actual deck and some additional resources and links, as I mentioned earlier, that'll be sent to you shortly. So definitely circulate that information with your network. And then we look forward to seeing you all hopefully in 2 weeks. All righty. Well, thank you so much, everyone.